Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on bicycle travel adventures. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/383, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 383rd edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name is Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. On this edition, the NoDak Northern Tier Adventure Part 2. But first, some housekeeping, some light housekeeping, which you're going to hear about for the next few weeks. Heads up, we are shifting the schedule around a bit here as we close out the year. We're going to delay the final best of for 2024 so that we can go straight through and finish off the NoDak Adventure with no further interruptions. But also, a big reminder, there is a live show Friday night, December 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Use your internet calculators if you are in a different time zone. Topics will be announced, and of course, it'll be the pod for the following week if you can't make it live, but definitely do if you can. It's a lot of fun. It's the community, all that kind of stuff. Links and more are at pedalshift.net/live. Hope to see you there. The best of will be the week of December 19th. And then for you Shifty the Elf fans, yes, the holiday spectacular returns December 26th to close out the year. All right, on to the Northern Tier Adventure. Starting from Fargo and driving clear across North Dakota, I had little to prepare me for what awaited on the western edge of the state. But would I see the bison that I low-key really wanted to see? And would some discovered damage on the Brompton scuttle the bikey part of this bike-adjacent adventure? Good morning from a Casey's in Fargo, North Dakota. So now, for those of you who you're not in a state unless you do certain things. I have overnighted and I have purchased something. Those are usually some of the things that people consider. Airport people, there are some people that are very much against the concept of the airport. As you visited the state, I happen to have a very loosey-goosey rule. This is funny. I call it the if I kill the guy rule. And this is, if I kill the guy where I was, am I subject to the rules and the jurisdiction of that state's laws? So yeah, you can tell I'm a lawyer, right? I don't have airport states, though. I only have real deal states where I've done a lot of stuff. And of course, North Dakota, by the time I'm done with this, I'll have driven nearly across the entire length, or width, actually, twice. I'm very reasonably close to Montana today and first thing tomorrow. So yeah. Anyways, I've got a big drive ahead. I've got probably with stops, it's probably going to be at least 6 hours. So it's a good chunk of the day today and tomorrow to do this. But hey, worth it because I'm going to a place that I've wanted to go to for a very long time. As I've mentioned on prior episodes, I am going to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Sometimes TRNP, TR National Park. I may say a whole bunch of different ways. It's a place that I've wanted to go to for the better part of my life because I am just entranced by the wildernessy aspect of it, the very Western nature of it, and perhaps most of all because it's got a great herd of buffalo there. I'm just really excited about it. The Cottonwood Campground is a first come first serve situation. After last night, I'm a little more, I don't know, I feel like the odds of me getting a spot are substantially higher after last night. There was one person in the camp the whole time. I mentioned it in the last episode, but yeah, it was a really nice setup. And I think that the reason why I wasn't able to get in for Monday is because I think that this is the last weekend that it's open for the year. And interesting that they're not open for Sunday to Monday, but yeah, for whatever reason, there were no spots available. So yeah, that ends up working out okay. All right, well, let's see. I got myself a little breakfast burrito. I got myself a coffee. I'm gassed up. This vehicle is a expensive vehicle to drive. I'll just put it that way. It was 4-hour drive and it was $35 worth of gas. So it's going to be we're going to be closing in on $200 maybe maybe 150 by the time all is done. Cheaper to bike. Just saying. Way cheaper to bike. I'm not going to be doing any biking here this morning. There's a little bit of moisture, a little bit of rain in the sky. Nothing big deal, just a couple of drops here and there. I just don't want to be caught in it. So I am going to take off. I am going to get to TR National Park as quick as I can so that I can do some biking today. And I'm super excited about that. All right, I will check in at least a couple times. I think my plan is to get to Bismarck within the next couple of hours and then maybe make a stop there. So that's my plan. That's the capital, state capital. It is also about halfway. And Western states, I love Western states. The capital tends to be in the center of the state, except when it's not. So I like that about Western states. Okay, off we go. From about an hour and change outside of Fargo, we're maybe another hour or so until we hit Bismarck in the middle of the state. I think the most intriguing part of North Dakota to me is just the wide expanse, and it would probably take upwards of, I would say, 5 to 6 days to cross it is my best guess. On an acoustic bike doing about 60, 70 miles a day. And it's just so beautiful. The rolling hills, and I'm maybe overstating it. It is fairly flat. But as I go further west, we start to roll just ever so slightly. The farmland at this time of year, and I don't think I've mentioned, this is the Indigenous Peoples / Columbus Day weekend, depending on where you're at. And it's right before harvest, it looks like, for a lot of these farms that I'm going by. I passed by a sunflower field where the sunflowers had already dropped their petals, so they were going to be harvesting those seeds, I would imagine, somewhat soon. Lots of agriculture, just dominated. But the other thing that I think is really interesting is how much wildlife there is from a bird perspective. There are large ponds that, to my mind's eye, are, I'm sure, partially at least for agriculture, but also for migratory birds, which I think is really cool. I passed by Jamestown, North Dakota, which had a big buffalo museum of some type, which might have been interesting, but I think my entire thing right now is to try to get to Medora, which is the town where the park is, and try to just maximize the next 24 hours or so. And that's what I think it's going to be. It'll be about 24 hours of that. In the meantime, the predominant color, because of all of the agriculture and because we're close to harvest, it's just gold. Like, it is absolutely the most stunning shade of gold. And I don't know how else to describe it, because part of it is because of the morning sun behind me that is lighting this up, and it's just really fantastic. I'm so amazed at the colors and the variety that I'm seeing, and it's something that maybe you wouldn't expect for a state like North Dakota. I mean, I think we all have in our mind's eye what North Dakota would be, and I certainly thought Fargo was going to be much smaller. And now it's just really beautiful, just straight up beautiful. I'm so grateful that I got a chance to come here and to not just half-ass it. It wouldn't have been, at first I would have thought, oh, just go to Fargo, spend a night, and boom, you've done North Dakota. And that would have counted, I suppose. But to really be able to experience the state this way, I think I'm getting a lot out of it. It's interesting here on the interstate. I'm on I-94. There have been a few parts where there's construction, and now it looks like they're redoing parts of the interstate here, and we had to slow down to 40 miles per hour, and it's right along one of those retention ponds / lakes / whatever you'd like to call it, and it's just windy and choppy and really beautiful, right next to the juxtaposition of the golden fields of wheat and grasses and everything else. It's quite stunning. I've taken a few pictures that I may or may not end up getting into the show notes. They may end up being the thumbnail for today, so you can check that out, of course, on the website too. or in your podcast app. Although I don't believe that those end up making it into the show notes podcast apps, because most show notes don't show graphics anymore, which is a shame. All right, let's see here. I am planning on taking a break, as I mentioned before, in Bismarck. And maybe, just maybe, I'm of two minds on this. I feel like that I owe y'all a little bike trip, but I'm also, if I keep pressing and get to TR National Park at a reasonable hour, maybe I get to bike for an hour or two today and then take you along on the ride that way. So we will just assess. We'll assess. Outside right now, it is 46 degrees Fahrenheit. So Celsius, folks, I don't know, like 3 or 4. I don't know. I'm guessing. Hold on. Let me do the thing it's more like 5 Celsius, give or take. So it's not warm. I would not call it cold. The sun is out. The clouds have largely parted, and it's a very pretty early fall day for up here. And I'm sure in a month or two, this place is going to become the frigid part of the country that I always see on weather maps and go, how do people handle it? And the answer is they just got to be rugged folk, because they put up with some real winters. That is for sure. All right, more to come. From Bismarck, North Dakota, halfway across the state. Beautiful area, much more rolly hills. The terrain is starting to change as we go further out west. Of course, this is the Great Plains, but as we transition further west, we start to get into the kind of terrain that is more familiar for those of you who have been in the sort of western U.S. And of course, that really is going to be the case when we hit the national park in a couple of hours of driving. Leaves are changing. Some are falling. Very heavily focused on the yellows. Not too many reds and oranges out here, but really pretty. Again, the theme of that kind of golden color here in the fall in North Dakota is very much prevalent. Hit the store. Ended up just going to a Walmart just because I knew it would be one-stop shopping. Not my favorite place to shop, but I knew I could get everything I needed. I needed to get some fuel for my stove. It is, it's chilly right now. Not cold, but chilly. It's going to be chilly tonight and in the morning, so I decided that I should focus in on getting things that will be warm to drink and warm to eat. I do believe there's a town nearby the park, but once you get settled in and you're in your camp, I tend not to want to leave. So I've got food basically that can cover, I think, all of the meals that I would need, including up through lunch tomorrow, if I so choose. I don't know what the situation is at the camp. I assume I could stay multiple days if I wanted to, so I don't think I'm going to be in a rush to check out tomorrow. Figuring that it's going to be about 6 hours to get back, I'm probably not going to leave until well after noon, and maybe even quite a bit later too, because unless I really want to do something in Fargo, I could show up at the hotel, late if I wanted to. So the next 24 hours is going to be basically trying to focus in on the adventures within the park. And of course, then finally I got the bike out, and then, we can do stuff on the podcast that's bikey, right? But I thought that this would be just fun to document this part for the podcast as well. Let me tell you about some of the things that I got. I believe this is a no water, no services kind of campground, which is not atypical in national parks. So I got a full gallon of water, drinking water, so I don't have to think about it. I realized I did not bring a cutlery set, and I've been toying with getting something a little more, robust. And I think I overdid it. I spent $10 on an Ozark Trail, which is, by the way, the same brand as my new e-bike, or the e-bike conversion, I should say. A cutlery set. Is it more than I need? Probably, but it actually looks all right. It's got knives and a corkscrew for all the times I use a corkscrew, which is never in camp. I got my favorite cinnamon apple spice tea. This is good for nighttime drinking because it's tasty and decaf. Let's see, what did I get? I got a couple of caramel apples for my sweet treat. Got a Mountain House fried rice for maybe dinner. I got a ramen, hot and spicy ramen. For breakfast in the morning, I got a variety pack of oatmeal. Not a huge oatmeal guy, but figure when it's going to be in the 30s tomorrow, I'll probably be happy about that. Got myself some coffee to make in the AeroPress. I think I'm going to be really hitting that in the morning. And then I got an extra can of soup just in case. Again, I wanted to have enough food that would get me through lunch tomorrow as needed. Any of this food can go back with the exception of maybe the caramel apples, but I can assure you those will not survive. They have no chance. And then I got myself a fuel for my stove because I needed that because I can't fly with that. It's a bummer because I always end up buying these fresh cans of fuel using about 10 minutes worth of the fuel and then leaving it for the next person. But hey, the next person can use it, so that's all good. All right. Oh, I also got a Gator light because I'm feeling a little dehydrated, but also, and here's where I share too much. For those of us who happen to have the equipment, it is possible to pee in a bottle in a tent and not have to get up and go all the way to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I kind of 50-50 needing it, but it's nice in the morning when it's cold out to be able to have that. So I'm going to drink that on the way to the camp, and then I will have an empty bottle that will be available for my pee bottle. That's, again, probably sharing too much, as usual. So let's see what else we got going on here. I believe we are 2 hours from camp. I am intending to see what the town is. I believe it's not, what is the name of it? I wanted to say Menard, but that is actually a store, basically a hardware store here in the region. And what is the name of the town? Well, I'll figure it out at some point. It is already starting to get advertised a little bit. It's very clearly a sort of outdoorsy, vacation-y place for folks in this region. So yeah. Really been enjoying this so far. Been listening to some podcasts, and yeah, it's so surreal to be in North Dakota. It really is. I've been wanting to come here for so long, and mostly to check a box, to be honest. But I'm really glad that it's more than just a box checker, that there's really beautiful scenery and stuff to do. And I'm excited to be able to get out there and start doing some exploring and doing some bike adjacent stuff. By the way, as I mentioned, this is sort of parallel to the Northern Tier bicycle route. Of course, I-94 is not the road that you would be cycling on, but I'll be, I believe, near some of the roads that I'll be cycling on when I get off at the park. So I will have to figure that out at some point as well. All right, much more to come. I probably will not be checking in until we get to Teddy Roosevelt National Park. And then it's like, honestly, I've done very little research other than I know the campgrounds there. I know the bison are there. I'm actually excited to learn, go to the interpretive center and stuff like that. So hopefully I'll share that along with you as well, in addition to, of course, hopping on the bike finally. From Cottonwood Campground Site 8. It's pretty busy here. It may be that there were just a lot of people that have already left, but a lot of tags on a bunch of the sites. But I am here. I got a spot. There are a bunch more people coming. There were only a few that didn't have tags on them, so I am so psyched to get a spot. I still haven't paid yet, but I put my tag up, and I'm going to put my tent up next. And then I'm going to go back and make sure I get that envelope into the bin. It's early. It's only about 2 mountain time here. But yeah, you can tell that all of the sites are probably going to get taken tonight, is just the vibes I'm getting. What a freaking early afternoon already. Hit both of the visitor centers. There's one right off of 94 that functions as a rest stop as well. And then the main visitor center here in the south unit of Teddy Roosevelt National Park. But the big thing was, and all of that was cool. I bought stuff. I got an annual pass for all the park systems, as I usually do when I visit for a year, or visit any park if I don't have one. I just like supporting the national parks. Even if I only hit one, it's an extra, I think it was an extra $50 compared to just the $30 for the one visit. It's a no-brainer for me. But in any event, my check the box kind of a thing was, will I see bison? And holy smokes, have I already. Just on the drive between the visitor center and here, not only did I see a whole herd of them, which was stunning and cool and great, and if that alone was it, I was like, okay, I can call this a success. But then further on down, there was a single buffalo that was absolutely just right on the side of the road. And so I got as close as one should ever get, and no closer, because I was on the opposite side of the road from that majestic little beast. And it was just great. I got photos, I got video. Yeah, really exciting so far. cycling is definitely going to be a thing. It's going to be possible, even just in a campground. I think it's just stunning here. It's in this lower valley, and there's, as the name would suggest, cottonwoods all over the place. Some of them still have their leaves on, those golden leaves that I've been seeing all throughout the state. So I'm definitely going to be doing some cycling in a little bit, but in fact, probably to go do my payment. That kind of makes the most sense, I think. So exciting. Yes. The only downside is I've got one bar here. It looks like I can get texts out, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get any streaming entertainment of any type. But town is not terribly far away if I'm feeling like I need something like that. So, all right, I'm going to stop yakking at you. I am going to put the tent up, and then I am going to go pay, and then it will feel much better that I have things established. All right. Tent set up. Car about to be secured. Secured. I'm going to bike to pay for said campsite. Now, against my probably better judgment, I am going to go backwards. Yeah, there are a bunch of people out today. So this is a smart idea. Let's see here. All right. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun to bike around. I will do it the long way when I'm not talking to you as much. Well, maybe I will. But the most important thing is, let's pay. All right, that was the shortest segment you'll ever get. More writing with words in a moment. All right, we're paid. And we're going to try to do this using my magnetic guy. The wind is pretty gnarly today down here, but that's okay. So we're going to do a full loop here. Half of the sites are blocked off. As of 2 weeks ago, they closed one of the main loops, and they keep open just this particular loop. And it's all first come, first serve. It'll be interesting to see now on a bike to see if there's any of these tags are for. Well, there's a tent there. So let's see, there were a bunch of... Oh, I've got stuff. Any site with a tag but no stuff, I'm intrigued with to see if they have left or not. Let's see. Nope, 1013. Oh, there's a tent there. That's why. So site 14 is available if you have a time machine and would like to come. 16's got... Yeah, a lot of these... I think folks may have come here in the morning, which means I got pretty lucky. I will say in Medora, which is the town nearby here, there was, okay, here's 19. There's no stuff there. Let's see, wind is blowing it, and it says today. So that one's available. That one's available. 23 and 22 look like similar stories. The tags are blowing. Oh wow, that one says 1013, which is tomorrow. So yeah, a whole bunch of people came in here and paid for their sites in advance, put a tag up, and so yeah, there's only a handful of sites that remain. So coming out, what did I say, 2:30? Yeah, I got pretty lucky. Now I'm sure what's happening right now for many of these folks is they're out enjoying the park. And they're probably doing it via motor vehicle. Site 27 available. Looks like this might be that camp host site, which looks lovely. And I've got somebody behind me. I think. Maybe. Well, I can bike at least the speed limit, which is very slow. I think it's 15 in here. Yeah, so it's going to be pretty full tonight. So if you recall, last episode, I was in a nearly empty campsite, paid 4 times as much, I think. I think it was $40. And I paid for it so long ago, I have no idea. This one's 10, and it's just a beautiful, no-frills site. But, you know, where we're at, that's the big thing. And yeah. And to be here on a bike, let's take a moment on that. It's sort of surreal being so far away in such an unusual bicycling destination. I did ask the park ranger whether or not he considered this a very bikeable area, and he did say, yeah, no problem. It is, there's quite a bit of an incline, I will say. Oh, I just realized the other loop is closed, but I can bike there. So let's do that. Also gives me a chance to check my saddle here. It is. I'll have to tighten the hex on it. The only thing that seems to have become a problem on the bike in its checked state, and I haven't mentioned that yet, is that oh, this is great. I'm gonna do tons of laps here, and there's no motor vehicles, so fantastic. The only thing is that my saddle seems to be a little wiggly, and that's easily fixed. I just have to tighten up the hex bolt on it. No big deal. See, this is great because, boy, there's a much more. It's too bad that this loop is closed. There's such a beautiful view of the Badlands here. So we're in the North Dakota Badlands, and if you're not familiar with them, it's where things get rough and the terrain is mountainous, not tall mountainous. Think about being in valleys a lot, and the hills / mountains / terrain just goes straight up, and it's craggly and difficult to get around, hence the name Badlands. Local tribes had a different name for it, which I've already forgotten, sadly. So, yeah, it's also a good time to make a little land acknowledgement. I know that bothers some people, but, you know, this was not a national park, was not anyone's land. I guess it's technically in the national park system, it's a kind of owned by us all, but land ownership was not a thing for the tribes of the region. So quick shout out to them, and for, well, take it wherever you will. I have my thoughts. So yeah, I really like this back area. I mean, this is a great place to go to just have a little bit of quiet time, because I won't have to deal with anybody back here if I want. Oh, there's an interesting thing I just saw. Have I ever called out poop? Have I ever said, hey, I'm excited to see poop? Well, I am right now, because I just saw what has to be bison poop. So that is super exciting. There is apparently, it's not uncommon for buffalo / bison to come and do their thing and hang out down here in the valley. So that's exciting, and I do wonder if that's going to be something that I'll get to experience. Like I said before, I'm thrilled that I got what I got. But yeah, this is all pretty fantastic. Oh, interesting. There's a few here on this side of the loop. Oh no, this is all closed. There are people camped. I guess it's just we don't have motor vehicle access back here. I do wonder if they would let people do a walk-in camp here. There was a whole bunch of back. Sorry, I did a turnaround that was very chaotic. There was a bunch of signs. I'll try that again. Right at the entrance, there was a whole bunch of very small handwritten signs that you could tell that the person who wrote it, they were like, this is very important and people need to read this. But, you know, I mean, when you don't need to stop there. I mean, it was very clear that there was nobody to check you in. So it's just like, okay, I'll keep going to where the actual check-in stand is, and maybe they'll have the same signs there. They didn't have nearly the same amount of signs, but it was the typical setup where envelopes, $10, the usual. Interesting. Okay, so there are some open signs here. So apparently some portions of this loop, unless they're just old signs, are allowed, going by our friend the poop again, are allowed to do a walk-in.
So that's cool. That certainly could have been an option for me. There was parking over there. At first, I thought that the other loop was closed as well, which of course would have been not a big deal. I could have hauled my stuff in. It's just I don't have a backpack. So it wouldn't have been super great, but would have been just fine. I would have been weird and probably bringing it in a roller bag or something. Just a stunning place here. Looks like I'm seeing berries, so they're not cedar, or I don't know what those would be. They're cedar-like, maybe juniper. Oh, with the berries, they're probably juniper. So we've got juniper, we've got obviously the cottonwood. I do wish the leaves were more up, because I think maybe a week or maybe even a few days ago, this place would have been A+. But, it's hard to complain with what I've got right now, with just all of the scenery and all of the space around here. I think I'm going to spend a little bit of the afternoon. I may go for a short drive just to go see deeper into the park, maybe be able to see if I can catch some additional wildlife. It's nice now that I have, it's nearly, not quite 3 o'clock, so we've got quite a bit of daylight left. So, I do have to say it would make sense to do some more cycling, so I think that might be the order of the day too. I've now done 2 complete revolutions of the closed loop, so I might consider doing that. All right, well, I'm going to let you all go, and then I'll check back in with a little more on the cycling portion of the adventure, which you've all been super patient for waiting. Thank you very much. And now the wind comes up as I get out of this little dip. Well, I may just be the most charmed person in the world right now, because even before I left, I was cycling out of the campground. I don't know if it's the same guy, but it's a guy, was right here, and I got amazing shots. You probably already seen them, because I'm thinking there's a thumbnail somewhere in there. Holy smokes. Wow. Yeah, unfortunately, my saddle is shifting around too much to do any kind of a real ride right now, but what a just stunning experience that was. And he just crossed the road. He's going up to maybe join another friend, because there's another one right up on a ridge line. Again, sorry for the wind in this episode. I think it's going to be following us for a lot. But holy, that I think I've gotten everything that I've wanted within minutes of getting here, and within minutes of doing anything. That's fantastic. Well, I think I'm going to go head back. It's not been a very long ride, of course, but I think I do want to tighten down the saddle if I want to do any more. I think I will do some later. The sun's still reasonably high up. I'm all screwed up now because of the time change. The sun will set here, let me get this right, a lot earlier than 50 miles away from here, because it will be an hour later there, an hour earlier here. Yeah, so that means that I should expect the sun to set earlier here. So I'm going to run out of sun, but I still have quite a bit left. All right, I am still sort of processing this, watching bison across the way there. Yeah, this is pretty great. This has been everything I've wanted so far, and I've still got hours and hours of time here. Okay, more to come. I'm going to go back to get this bike a little bit more dollied up for the rest of this adventure. Back at camp, got the saddle all tightened on, and then I discovered there is damage. And it's in a spot that I should have thought about, and is one of the rack wheels. It is bent the F up. It must have just taken a slap, taken a bag on top of it, something. And honestly, that's my own fault. I should have thought about these. Arguably could remove them. They stick out. This is what would have happened potentially to one of the hinge clamps if it had been on. And so it would have been smarter for me to take these off. So I'll take these off when I go back. Luckily, these are not expensive. I may even have another one of that size, but I think I'm going to make sure that I end up getting a couple more just to be on the safe side, because they roll real nice, and it's very important, because otherwise she don't roll when in folded mode, which will, of course, now ensure that I do this bike checked on the way back. If you recall, I might have considered doing it in the overhead, but now I will definitely do a check, because I can't roll. Bummer. Predictable. Did this a little too willy-nilly. It's fine. It's just a good reminder that honestly, unless you're going to go with a hard case, you are taking a risk with checking a bike when you're doing a soft side bag. So that's fine. I will, like I said, it's trivially easy to take those off. I don't think I'll need to take the others off. The issue ends up being is that they end up being on a corner of the bottom of the bag. So that's going to take some hits. So yeah, that was predictable. I should have been smarter with that. But a good lesson learned for the future though. One thing I should note is I've been using the kickstand on my Brompton, which I put on not too terribly long ago. I can't remember if I got it for the holidays last year as a Christmas gift. I'm trying to remember if I put it on for the Florida trip last year. I don't think so. So this is really the first real trip where I've had it that I can think of. And yeah, it works great. It's nice that I don't have to fold the darn thing under itself. It allows me to do what I did when I took pictures of that majestic bison back there. Pretty cool. Guy across the way said something to me that suggested that there might be another one over here. And as I am walking across, I think I might see one that's literally right on the other side of the campground. Am I crazy? Hold on. I'm just walking. Why don't you walk with me here? Let's just see. That's either a bale of hay or it's a buffalo lying down on the ground. Holy smokes, he wasn't kidding. There's one right here. Holy smokes. He said there was one lying right there, and I didn't realize he meant right there. Okay. So the rules on this are you say, I'm already probably too close. I am also upwind, but he doesn't, no, I'm downwind. The wind shifted. He does not seem to be too worried about me. Wow. Just wow. Just wow. Yeah. These are the largest land mammals in North America. Used to be literally millions of them. Sorry for the wind. And of course, they were hunted nearly to extinction. I really strongly recommend the Ken Burns documentary, American Bison, or American Buffalo. I think it was American Buffalo, to learn more about it. And the linkage between Native American populations and their not just reliance on buffalo, but like the integration into their faith, for lack of a better way of putting it. Just the spirituality there is just impossible to ignore. Yeah, this is pretty darn special, I have to say. I've already gotten my I've already got my bike shot with one. But yeah, this is pretty wild. An old-timey motor vehicle coming up, like 50s or early 60s. It doesn't sound like it though. Sounds like it runs smooth. All right, well, I'm going to let you all go while I see if I can get some pictures of this guy or gal, and then I'll head back to continue making my lunch. Yeah, who needs to bike any place? They just come to you. Crazy. I had to go back into Medora for a minute, mainly because of my stove's self-lighting capability is long gone. And these are cheap stoves, but it still works fine. I just need a lighter. Problem was, didn't bring a lighter, so had to go all the way into town for one. Coming back into camp, and of course there's sign number 1, don't pull off the road. I already blew that. I didn't see that sign earlier. It did look like an actual pull-off though, but it was technically off the road, so I don't know. We'll say that I'll just beg for forgiveness on that one. The other one was, do not approach the wildlife, and there was a picture of a buffalo on there, and of course that's no duh. But what happens when they approach you? The guy across the way there in that campsite, the buffalo was like in his campsite. I mean, I thought about going back to the park rangers and going, hey, so what do we do if that happens? So I think I'm on the wrong side of the road, quite literally, for that to be much of concern, but
It's wild. Even just going into town, I got yet another very good close encounter. And everybody's being really good and respectful and being very slow and waiting on the buffalo to cross the road, the bison. I keep interchanging on that. I used to be a bison guy, but apparently buffalo is now okay to say, or not that it wasn't okay, but as I mentioned before, bison is the scientific name, genus and species. So like, yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but in any event, I'm going back. Oh, there's some groundhogs. Okay, now, there's a groundhog right. Oh my God. This is just wild. There's a groundhog just sitting there in the breeze. I don't know. Groundhogs are probably like the rats of North Dakota. Meanwhile, I'm just like, oh my gosh, a groundhog. There are dozens, hundreds of mounds out there. And I'm seeing another one just sitting there eating, doing that thing where they stand up and look around. Oh my gosh, they're all over the place. They're just everywhere. My goodness. All right, I'm going to try to take a picture while I continue to talk to you. Because, yep, they're looking at me now. Let's see here. Let's see if I can pull this off. There we go. Maybe they'll come out. Oh, they're making little squeak sounds. They're jumping. I'm realizing now that I should have said prairie dogs, not groundhogs. They are everywhere. I didn't notice them at all on the way in. I mean, there's hundreds of them just all scattered about. I wonder if it's just time of day. It's 3:50 p.m. here, Mountain Time. Yeah, I mean, just hundreds of mounds everywhere. Wild. Cool. Well, anyways, yeah, so I barely scratched the surface of this park, and I feel like you can be of two minds with a national park like this, where you're just like, oh, I want to go discover every corner that I can and see all the different areas. There might be different biomes and things like that here. Or you can choose to just get to know the area that you're in. And I think I'm going to say, why not both? I think that for today, I think I'm going to be sticking with my campground. And I think tomorrow, I think what I might do is I'll break camp at a reasonable hour, and then I can maybe go for a ride. Maybe I can go discover some of the other parts of this just truly tremendous park. So yeah, this has become more of a podcast about Theodore Roosevelt National Park, I suppose, but there's nothing wrong with that. Now, of course, the downside is you're just hearing me talk about it and missing out on some of the visuals. So I'm going to definitely make sure that I include some of my mediocre photography. I will say this phone has captured a few good shots, a few terrible shots, but a few good shots too. And I've done a cinematic mode. I'm trying out all the different things in this camera that's available, not knowing whether it's going to work or not. But hey, you miss all the shots you do not take, I believe is how it goes. All right, more to come. And hey, may even get back on the bike again for you. Why the heck not? Because this is, after all, a food podcast where I occasionally talk about cycling and apparently bison. And there is literally a herd. Quite literally a herd. Okay. So we're going to roll down windows and do some video and some photos and stuff and still be very careful here because we got buffalo. Just enjoyed some ramen and a caramel apple, my mortal enemy. Maybe that's the wrong way of putting it. My great love. It's not good to me, but it's that time of year, so I treat myself. I have been getting just ridiculous shots. The buffalo that is across the way here from my campsite is still here. And the buddy came around and I got another beautiful shot. I'm probably a solid 100 feet away. And I'm not interested in getting any closer at all. There's no need to. I mean, this is amazing. Just watching this particular one eat the grasses, and yeah, it's pretty cool. This is very special. And I'm glad I've been documenting it with some visual aids as well in addition to this. Yeah, it's great that, again, I propped up the Kim Burns documentary, but after seeing that and after learning more about the history of the near extinction and now
the recovery, and it's not great, not anywhere near where they were, but to be in this place right now where, but for really some dumb luck, these buffalo would not exist. They'd be extinct by now, which is pretty crazy considering. But yeah, it's the bald eagle is, of course, the symbol of America, but I would argue that there's very little that's as American as our American buffalo. So, anyways, while I continue to gush, I will also mention to you that the cycling is still on. It's still happening. I'm going to be doing it, I think, tomorrow morning. Now, I just discovered something else. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be right around freezing, 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So I am going to have a literally chill morning where I will not do much more than coffee and eat oatmeal probably until things warm up a bit. I suspect that things will get warmer rapidly once the sun gets up over the valley walls here, but I think until then it'll probably be very chilly. I have just enough clothing, I think, to be okay. I brought my warm jacket, my Columbia jacket, which should be perfectly great. It even has some reflective material in it that should make me very happy in the morning. I use it more as a pillow elevator for the evening, but I can guarantee you I'll be putting that on in the morning. Yeah, it's interesting how much the temperature gradient changes around here. I mean, we were well into the 60s and maybe I think in the low 70s earlier. And yeah, straight down to 32. And it's just mid-October. So yeah, this place probably gets real cold, real cold during the winters. All right, so cycling later in the morning when things warm up, of course. But until then, I'm just watching, well, I'm watching a buffalo take a whiz. Because that's nature too, folks. So I am winding things down, which seems strange because it's still I don't know, maybe a couple hours till sunset. But I feel like the week has caught up to me. And I have to be honest, just all of the sights that I've seen, it's just like I'm still processing so much of what's going on here. I'm going to walk over to see what's going on. I can see the two bison are still up here. And one is lying down. One was he. I'm saying he because I definitely saw. And I think that the person's coming back, so I think I'm going to walk back. They seem to be a little down and getting ready probably for the end of their days as well. I did take a look at some of the materials for the campsite, and the recommendation for my questions was in there. Number one, they say 25 yards distance, which is 75 feet. So I have been in a good place for all of that. So I feel good about that. The other answer to the question, which I thought was interesting and makes some sense, is if you are approached, you should back away. And that makes a ton of sense too, because bison are known to charge. So you want to be careful of that. And when you're in a motor vehicle, that's one thing, because you've got at least some kind of protection there. Although they will definitely mess you up in a vehicle. But on a bicycle, it's quite the other thing. And I will say, I'm certain they can outrun me. That's for sure. So I would have to be very careful about that. So I think one of the things that I'm going to be mindful of tomorrow is if it looks like I'm going to have any kind of a closer encounter like I have when driving, that I should turn around. It would be really problematic to be on the little clown bike and to invite a charge from one of these beasties. So I think that's going to be something that I'll have to be mindful of. And they are quite literally everywhere in the valley. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the morning. They may kind of scoot off, not be around these areas, but who the heck knows? It's really interesting how docile they are, especially because my first thought was, maybe they've become accustomed to human food. And then I thought, no, that's silly. They actually are uninterested in it because they eat grasses pretty much. They're not going to eat any of the stuff that we have, I think. So it's just their nature, which is pretty interesting. And the other thing that I found very interesting over the course of this afternoon with the encounters is the two different types. The kind of lone wolf buffalo and then the herd. And I got some really stunning footage of the herd with a couple of younger buffalo as well in there. So yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I've been kicking back and digesting my food and thinking about how cold it's going to get and how much I think this is going to be an enjoyable evening. I think having slept last night in a tent, I think usually my second night sleeping is usually a little bit better than my first night. The other thing I don't have is road noise. Last night there was really hellacious road noise. I-94 was a stone's throw away from the campsite. As good as it was, you still had the road noise, so I was using earplugs. I'm not sure if I'll have to do that tonight. I mean, the only noise I'm going to have is the wind, which may die down after sunset. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah, so the big thing tonight is keeping warm and being ready for whatever the morning will bring. I'm going to have all of my stuff in the tent for making some coffee and basically getting warm things into me. Of course, I have the car too. That will be an easy way to get warm if need be too. I did briefly think about sleeping in the Jeep tonight, but one thing about sleeping in a car of any type is that because the vehicle is elevated, the cold air goes beneath it as well. So think about how cold you can get in a hammock, and that will tell you how it ends up working out for you in a car. You're almost better off being in a tent. Yeah, sure, it's all sealed up and everything, but they can get real cold inside, not substantially warmer than being in a tent. So I'll be bundled up. I got my double layer of sleeping bags, which worked great last night, but it's going to be 20 degrees colder, I think, this morning or tomorrow morning than it was this morning. So hats, layers, we're going to do it up. This is really the limit of how cold I like to camp, but I'm still pretty excited about the prospect of a nice frosty morning here in North Dakota. It was what I was expecting. And it was interesting because the weather forecast did not talk about a freeze until today. It just got progressively cooler and cooler. And in fact, earlier in the week, I was looking at the weather and thinking I was getting cheated out of a nice cold night. Well, be careful what you wish for. North Dakota is going to North Dakota. All right. Okay. I think that I have exhausted all of the buffalo talk that I can possibly give you, at least for today. Trust me, I'm sure I'll have more for you tomorrow. The folks are starting to slowly come into the campground from all around the park, I think, from their adventures. I am going to do more of my adventuring tomorrow. I feel like I got quite a bit of it here this afternoon with my limited riding and my drive around and seeing all the different wildlife and all the close encounters that I've managed to get. It just really has exceeded expectations to be here and already have, I don't want to say gotten bored with it. I mean, it's just, oh, well, look, it's still there. Should I go over? I already got a good picture. So, in any event, I think we're going to wrap up this adventurous day with an eye towards a real fun start to the day tomorrow, a cold start. And then we will get a little bike in. I think we'll do a little ride up to the road and maybe do a little bit more than we were able to do today because of the buffalo encounters, and see if we can enjoy some of that. And then it's hop back in the car and drive another 6 hours because we end up in Fargo, North Dakota back again tomorrow to get as much of the driving in as possible, because I do have a 1 o'clock flight in Minneapolis the day after. And I think it's good to have a 3-hour drive and really not much more for that day. Just said that you never know what can happen. You just never know what can happen. So if I miss that flight, things go sideways real quick. So I'm still sort of processing how good this day has been. I'm really glad that the bike actually gave me the opportunity to get up to at least one of my really positive bison encounters. And I'm looking forward to hopefully having something similar tomorrow, despite the fact that I think that there's some safety considerations in there as well. But maybe I'll get to see some other things, some different angles of the walls of the Badlands here, maybe seeing some other wildlife. The speed of bike always delivers. Statistics. Miles driven, 333. Bison sightings, 1 herd, 1 lone wolf. Bashed Brompton rack tires, 1. Impending temperature drop, 34 degrees Fahrenheit, 19 degrees Celsius. Lighters forgotten and subsequently purchased, 1 flats 0. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community. Expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joaquin Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Hankel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zaranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Bigel, Greg Middlemiss, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latoile Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lico, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullough, John Hickman, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Lazuski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponsella, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, Ryan Patterson, Sarus Faravar, John Gardner, Sam Scruggs, Dwight Pintinger, Connie Bowder, Rob Merrifield, and thanks to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.